Ready? No.
Jay,
Ready?
turned out.
And I'm waiting for Karen. Karen's waiting for Ann. He's waiting. Watery winning. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to a regular meeting of the Madera County Board of Supervisors. Today is Tuesday, August 20th, 2024. Are there any additions to the agenda?
There are no additions.
Great. Thank you. Council, would you mind reading in our closed session items into the record?
Not at all, Chairman. Good morning. There are 3 items for your closed session today. 2 of them are existing litigation matters, and you have a conference with your legal counsel. That's under Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D2. They're both Madera Superior Court cases. One of them has a case name of Cardoza with several other plaintiffs listed versus the Madera County Groundwater Sustainability Agency, and the second is the Valley Groundwater Coalition versus the County of Madera. The first is MCV 086218, and the second MCV 087677 as the case numbers. The other item is conference with your labor negotiators, and I will be verbally providing an update to what's written in the description, and that's under Government Code Section 54957.6. Your agency designated representatives are Joel Boguet, the Assistant County Administrative Officer, Susan Carter, the Human Resources Manager, Sabrina Mendez, the Human Resources Director, and Shanika Dixon, the Director of Human Resources. The employee organization is all units and unrepresented employees, all classifications, but not elected officials. Shanika Dixon. There we go. Thank you, Chair.
Very good. Thank you very much. Are there any members of the public that have any comments regarding the closed session items?
No comments online.
Very good. Seeing and hearing none, we will move into closed session. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to a regular meeting of the Madera County Board of Supervisors. Today is Tuesday, August 20th, 2024. Council, are there any reportable actions out of closed session?
Chairman, there is no reportable action from that portion of closed session. However, there is requests that you return to closed session to finish the discussion items.
Very good. Thank you. We will now open and close the meeting in memory of individuals. Is there anybody that a colleague of mine would like to remember at this time? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move to the invocation and pledge of allegiance. We have Pastor Leroy Gaffney from Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church will be leading us in the invocation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bow your heads in reverence. Good morning, our most gracious Heavenly Father. We stand not only in invocation, but we stand in intercession. First, thank you for the many blessings and the blessings of continued personal blessings, everyone up under the sound of my voice. We ask you, Father, to look upon those that are on the front line for us, those that are first responders. We ask you, Father, to continue to bless Madera County. Bless these men and these women that serve on our Board of Supervisors. God, I ask you now, continue to give them the grace and understanding so that they may rightly divide the word of truth between the Madera County. Father, men, we ask you now to continue to bless and grant them the grace and understanding. These things we ask in the name of the Father, the Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll move on to public comment. The first 15 minutes of each regular session are set aside for members of the public to address the board on any matter under the jurisdiction of the board, but not appearing on the agenda. The board will not take action on any items presented under public comment. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, and anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium and state their name and county of residence for the record. Are there any members of the public who wish to provide public comment at this time?
Noah Lopez with the Madera Ag Water Association. I want to thank you for the opportunity to comment this morning. Just wanted to comment on the recent survey that was sent out to growers asking for a indication of preference on the 3 different alternative groundwater rates. As a bit of a reminder, the survey provides 4 potential scenarios related to the GSP fee. That's the fee that's currently under injunction. Each scenario correlated potential rate dollar amount to an expected groundwater allocation in 2040. MAWA, though, is a little bit unclear on how the GSA arrived at these various rate allocation combinations. There wasn't any technical analysis or explanation included with the survey, simply just the survey and the numbers. And this is a little bit difficult for growers to understand. It's also unclear exactly how the GSA plans to use the survey information. Is the idea that the results of the survey will be the final decision regarding the GSP fee rate should the injunction be lifted? I think that information would have been helpful to see on the survey, a little more depth or in-depth explanation of how the survey was going to be used or will be used. So MAWA would suggest 3 things before maybe conducting the survey or analyzing the survey or reconducting the survey. First, it would be helpful to explain in detail the technical basis for the fee allocation combinations that were presented. This is lacking in the current survey, and it's kind of difficult for GSA or for the GSA to expect that growers can make an informed decision without seeing that technical analysis, right? Second, it'd be helpful to provide growers with financial transparency on the GSA admin fee. Chair Poitras has been really helpful in moving that process along, and we're very appreciative of that. But we have yet to see that information, and I think asking growers to make information or make decisions and indicate their preference on the GSP fee while they still have questions about the GSA admin fee revenue is a little bit difficult. And then finally, we just want to make sure that the GSA plans to conduct more public outreach besides just this survey. The survey, like I've said a few times now, simply numbers. I think it would be really helpful to see more public outreach, public meetings where the technical analysis behind these numbers is presented and there's a discussion around it. As of right now, there's just numbers and you're asking growers to make a decision with very little information. So more public outreach would be very helpful. That's it on the survey. Thank you very much for the opportunity to comment.
I'd just like to comment that this survey was intended to be a starting place before we went out for public comment. And now we're going to have an emergency meeting at 1 o'clock, and it kind of caught us off guard. And, so having this a couple of hours before this public meeting is not very helpful in allowing us to move forward. Again, that was to start the public comment.
Understood, and I think we were a little caught off guard too on.
Okay, well, and where the domestic well dollars came from. We talked about that ad nauseum.
Okay, well, it'd be helpful to talk more in the future. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kevin Herman. I'm a grower, farmer here in Madera County. Have a lot of white area land, and I'm also on the board for MAWA, Madera Ag Water Association. We fancy ourselves as the group who's not the torches and pitchfork folks. We we want to consider ourselves to be centrist and work towards resolution on a fair water policy that works for everybody in Madera County, everybody from the DACA to farmers. And towards that effort, we've been meeting with Stephanie and Rob for at least 4 months, if not longer, on about a monthly basis. And it doesn't it doesn't bring me any pleasure to be here today to criticize folks in public, but we've been meeting for a long time. We've been asking for a budget. Things just keep getting put on the consent agenda without a chance for input. We don't have a budget. Spending money like drunken sailors with all this stuff they're doing without giving us a chance for feedback is really, really getting frustrating. And furthermore, I was not able to attend this last Tuesday's meeting that Rob referenced. But what, we want to help. We want to get consensus and get us over the finish line. But these numbers, we were never given a chance to provide input on. Never, ever. We had a meeting on Tuesday. I got this in Friday's mail, so it probably went out in Wednesday's mail. Wouldn't it have been prudent, Rob, to run these numbers by us beforehand? I mean, I feel like we're wasting our time. We need to talk, and right now it's a one-way conversation. We're not getting a chance for any input. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public that have a comment at this time? Anybody online?
No comments online.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to the consent calendar. Are there any items on the consent calendar that a colleague of mine would like to have pull for further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to pull item 5I, 5M, and then I just have a comment on 5Q.
Okay, I M and comment on Q. Okay, very good. Let's go ahead and go to I.
And for 5I, it was regarding $46,000 in unexpected maintenance expenses. The backup just didn't include what those emergency maintenance expenses were. So just for the record, I just wanted you to come up and clarify that. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Janelle Clark from Facility Superintendent for General Services. I'm going to give you some background on what some of those items were. Some of the big ticket items that have basically kind of put us over budget was the Courthouse Museum. That item specifically was $49,000 to do the repairs to the 4-inch main line that flooded the basement area. And so we also had to do additional shoring to that for those big giant, for those granite steps. So that item itself was $49,000, right, to do the shoring and to do the repairs to the main 4-inch line that busted underneath the museum and flooded the basement of the museum. So that's one of the big ticket items. Another one was another 4-inch main line at the courthouse park that ended up busting during renovations that we had to reroute to be able to keep our landscaping taken care of. We had another repair to the irrigation lines over at the courthouse park as well, which was about $7,000. So we're totaling almost $20,000 just in irrigation repairs and 4-inch main line repairs just at the courthouse park. Our access control systems over at the jail shorted out, which ended up having to procure a bunch of floodlights and do a bunch of repairs to the access control system. That was several $1,000s as well. We had broken main water lines over at our building maintenance shop, which also procured a few $1,000s as well to make the repairs to get us back in operation. We had to purchase quite a bit of R22 to maintain our HVAC systems throughout the county. And that's just, the R22 is pretty much outdated and extremely expensive. So that led to about a little over $5,000 just to have backup, just so we could try to keep us actually operating. So those are just some of the big ticket items.
Yeah, that's all we're looking for. Since it
Okay.
didn't have anything on the backup, when it comes to emergency unexpected items, we just want to have some sort of clarification as far as what those
No
are.
problem.
So I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
And that is coming from salary savings, not from general fund dollars. Just want to make that on the record.
All right, and item M.
Yeah, item 5M, the ambulance contract.
Morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much. And I wanted to pull this item just for um, information to the public because this is a huge deal. And since it's on consent, I know, Dan, you've been working on this for quite some time. This is something that I've been trying to make a top priority for the last 18 months as well. So it's finally here, and this is a big deal. So I was hoping you guys could provide some main beats of what this item actually is and the effect it has on our residents.
I can give just the main bullets, and then I'll invite Dan, who is the director of our EMS agency for our region, to be able to add some details. There are two different agreements, one that really captures the Chowchilla area and the other, the Madera area, which includes City of Madera, Rolling Hills, Ranchos, basically the rest of the valley that's in the south. We do have a separate ambulance service that is for our mountain area, which is Sierra Ambulance. But this is with Pistresi Ambulance, who really covers the valley area. This is a new contract that really includes a lot of performance standards that are really standard across the industry for ambulance response. And it includes kind of a tiered system of ambulance response times in terms of expectations for metro, suburban, and rural areas. We're wanting to make sure that there is adequate coverage and that there are enough ambulances to be able to meet appropriate standards across the valley for all of the residents in Madera County, so that when there is the need for an ambulance, it shows up in time and that they're able to get that urgent medical care as they're on the way to the hospital. So the standards are in the contract in particular, but I wonder if, Dan, you'd like to put a couple periods and exclamation points on that.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and board members. I'm Dan Lynch, the EMS director for the Central California EMS Agency, your EMS agency. And I first off have to think this was a full court press. I appreciate you pushing this for us to help us get this working. CIO's office, certainly Sarah's staff, county council, we were working on this. This has been a big deal, and it is a big deal for Madera County. Up until now, these contracts that we've had in place were very old and didn't really have any real response time requirements and standards. And so now these that will go into effect on October 1st now as standards. One of the big changes, for example, that came into place with these new contracts is the addition of an ambulance to the Ranchos area. And right now it's a 12-hour ambulance that Pistresi is working with. And I do have to give big kudos to Pistresi for working with us. This is a big change for them. But man, they're right in there with the discussions, making things happen, and really appreciate the work that Ted and his staff are doing over there. And so the standards now in the metropolitan area, if we want to call it, of Madera, and which is the metropolitan area, the city of Madera plus a mile out. So it's capturing those people that don't want to live in the city but want all the city services. Those covers those people. And that's a 9-minute response time maximum. So they got to beat all calls within 9 minutes, 90% of the time or more. And so but it's not always 9 minutes. It's usually an average of 5 minutes or something in the city. And then we expanded out to a suburban area, which covers all the ranchos all the way up to Tercero Viejo and also the Rolling Hills area. And so we do dispatch out of Fresno. All the dispatch comes out of the Fresno Dispatch Center, and the closest ambulance goes to the call. So there may be times when you may see an American ambulance coming out of Fresno into some of these areas, because we want to make sure that the closest ambulance goes to the person that needs it. And so with that unit that they put out in the Ranchos already, I mean, we saw instant change when that ambulance was put out at near Road 30 or Avenue 12 and Road 37. And it's pretty great. So their intention is to make it a 24-hour car so they get their staffing set up. But it's already a very big success responding into that Tercero Viejo area, but also into the Madera Ranchos. So big changes. And so it's a 12-minute response time into that suburban area for emergency calls.
And that includes all of the Rolling Hills area and all that. And then there's a rural response, which is 15 minutes that goes out into the areas that are really not as populated, but still need ambulance coverage, obviously. So we have some pretty good response times. Distress the ambulance is committed to it. I think they're doing a really good job making changes to that. And so we're really looking forward to it. And we're looking forward to the fact that Madera Community may open in October, which will help Distress because then their ambulances aren't traveling to Fresno. So there's a lot of stuff in the mix here, and we're excited about the changes. Really excited. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, thank you so much for all the work you did. And so I want to thank, our CAO, Jay, Regina, Sarah, and Ted Pistresi and his staff. This has been a collaborative effort, and a lot of work has gone into making this deal possible. One of the biggest changes, I think there's two main changes. One was to the map that reclassifies rural response times and then converting them into suburban response times. So East Side Acres, the Ranchos, Rolling Hills, Tesoro Viejo, they were all classified as rural, which was a 20-minute response time. If you're having a heart attack, a stroke, trauma-related incident like a car crash, minutes matter. And so the second fold of that is having performance standards, because prior to that, even a 20-minute response time, what happens if they didn't meet that standard? There was nothing. There was no consequences. And so now we have updated the 1984 contract, and this is a huge deal for our county, and this is a big win for the safety of our residents. And I want to thank everybody involved in this, because this is a big deal. So thank you, guys.
I could piggyback off of that.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to thank Jordan for his comments, and I'm totally in agreement. And just want to say that in the many years I've worked with Pistresi Ambulance, they've been really great about their response to the community's needs. Monty and Chad have always been not only friends, but great community members, and appreciate their service in a difficult industry, really super difficult industry, difficult to make the dollars and cents make sense in all of that. And what a great community service. When somebody's in need, they're there, and we really appreciate them. I can't count the number of times I've had circumstances where somebody said something about, yeah, they responded and saved my life, or what have you. So it's really important. And this is a great step forward for our community to get these standards in place, and appreciate their cooperation and help in all of that. Thank you.
Very good. And item Q.
Yeah, this was the item regarding the sheriff's office. This is the MOU regarding, and I just have a comment on this. So no questions needed from the staff. This is regarding mutual aid regarding forensic death investigations for officer-involved shootings and in custody deaths. What this does, this just increases transparency within our community. And I want to give kudos to the sheriff and his team for implementing this MOU, ensuring that transparency and trust within the community. When these types of high-profile investigations take place, it just shows the commitment that we are doing the right thing. It just shows everybody that we're doing the right thing. We're all on the up and up and committed to those high standards that we have for ourselves. So thank you, Sheriff and their staff.
Very good. Are there any other comments from my colleagues? If not, I'll open it up to the public. Are there any items that a member of the public would like to comment on the consent calendar? Seeing and hearing none, I'll bring the item back for action.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Rogers,
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Supervisor Rogers motion, Supervisor Wamhaugh,
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Chairman Poitras.
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Very good. Thank you. We'll move on to discussion items. 6A.
Board of Supervisors Department, presentation of a proclamation recognizing the month of August as National Breastfeeding Month.
Good morning. My name is Sally Tran. I'm the Regional Breastfeeding Liaison at United Health Centers WIC, and I serve Fresno and Madera County. I want to thank Supervisor Gonzalez for sponsoring this item. On behalf of the Madera County Breastfeeding Coalition, I would like to thank the board for your support on declaring August as Breastfeeding World Month in Madera County. As chair for our coalition, I would like to report that Madera County's exclusive breastfeeding rate for 2020 through 2022 was at 61.5%, and any breastfeeding rate was 91% in the hospital. We celebrate that these rates are improved from previous reports. Still, there are much work that needs to be done. For World Breastfeeding Week, this year's theme is closing the gap and supporting all breastfeeding individuals. It is essential that no one is left behind, especially vulnerable lactating parents who may need additional support to reduce breastfeeding inequalities. We need to inform the community about the inequalities that exist in breastfeeding support, anchor breastfeeding as an equalizer to close the gap within society, engage with individuals and organizations to enhance collaboration and support for breastfeeding, which includes the warm chain of breastfeeding support, such as groups in civil society organizations, governments, policymakers, health systems, workplaces, and community. And lastly, galvanize action on reducing inequalities in breastfeeding support by focusing on vulnerable groups. As a servant to the community who work with families that need breastfeeding support, I am happy to be part of the Madera County Breastfeeding Coalition, who believe in the same effort as mine in bringing more awareness about breastfeeding and providing breastfeeding support in all levels possible to closing the gap for our families. With that, I would like to introduce Elsie Arambidi, Program Manager for WIC at Madera County Department of Public Health, who leads the staff in supporting our family in their breastfeeding journeys. She's also at IBCLC, which is a highly esteemed credential that leads to providing the highest quality of breastfeeding care through expertise and experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, board, for the opportunity to celebrate something good and happy for this month. I just want to give you a snapshot of the Madera Public Health WIC. Right now, we are serving 8,053 participants. We are currently receiving funding for 7,770. There should be a new amendment coming through. Just plugging that in because it's coming for increasing of 7,960 participants. And our breakdown of that is 745 pregnant women, 700 breastfeeding mothers, 251 postpartum mothers, and a total of 335 children, infants, I'm sorry. And then 5,020 children. Out of those 5,000, we have provided breastfeeding for at least 25 to 30% of those children that are now between 1 and 5 years of age. And our breastfeeding rates right now for the past year range at 27 to 31. For the Central Valley, we carry the highest rate, and that's including 5 to 7 agencies. We always have Fresno, Madera, Merced, and we cover a good amount of people. So we all should be proud of our breastfeeding rates. We do a lot of Zoom and we do a lot of virtual appointments. So therefore, it works. You know, after COVID, we have to adapt to that, and we still provide those services for the moms. Our bulk of participation comes out of Madera. The site is 6,693, and Oakers, to be proud, there's about 500 people, and out of those, about 40 to 50% of those moms are breastfeeding, even though it's a remote area, but they're all for breastfeeding. So we're very proud of our Oakers mom. Chowchilla, we have 800 people that we service, and also the rates are very high. So just to conclude the whole thing is, we're very proud of our moms. Our participation is increasing, so therefore our rates are increasing. Our breastfeeding rates used to be very high because we had an MOU with the hospital, but we're very happy that the hospital is going to open because that's going to help a lot to the moms. Right now, they seem to be on their own, but they always reach for us to help them out. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any comments from any of my colleagues?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the Madeira Breastfeeding Coalition for all of the work that you do for our community, the support that you provide, more importantly, and the awareness that you bring. Speaking as someone who recently had a baby, and there was a specialist that came in because I had a lot of trouble, and it's difficult and it's painful and it's not fun, and you're very hormonal at the time. And so I just want to thank you all for the work that you do. And Wick, you guys have a very robust Facebook page that's very active. And so I appreciate that, or all social media, right? I see you mostly on Facebook, but yeah, I just want to thank you for bringing this awareness forward. Appreciate all that you do.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any members of the public that have a comment? Seeing and hearing none.
I just want to make a comment.
Sure.
This is a really important subject because of the health metrics it brings to the community, and the children that are breastfed are healthier because of the health benefits that are passed from the mother to the child. So it's really important to our community, as well as the bonding that occurs there. And I appreciate mothers in our society, and I'm acutely reminded of my own mother, and she passed away 3 years ago. 3 days ago. So I think of her all the time, miss her, and appreciate the kind of mother I had that took care of me like that. And it's important for children to have that bond, as well as the health benefits that come with it. So it's something that you're making aware to the community, and it's really important. Thank you.
Very good. Well, at this time, we do have a certificate we'd like to present to you. So all the coalition, please gather up here. Thank you.
I know.
Okay, according to my time, it's 10:31. So that will mean that we will move to our public hearings. And the first item is 7A.
Board of Directors, Groundwater Sustainability Agency, Delta Mendota Sub Basin, hearing to adopt a resolution regarding the 2024 Groundwater Sustainability Plan for Delta Mendota Sub Basin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Stephanie Agneson, your Director of Water and Natural Resources. Here with one of the 3 GSPs that you're going to see over the next series of months. I have a short PowerPoint outlining changes.
I've outlined on the screen where the Delta Mendota subbasin is. It is the smallest one that is within the county boundaries. We spend a lot of time on the Madera subbasin and the Chowchilla subbasin, less on the Delta Mendota subbasin. Much of it runs north outside of our county. Within the county, there are 3 GSAs, the county GSA, Aliso Water District GSA, and then the San Joaquin River Exchange Contractors Water Authority, GSA. So just a little bit of background on SGMA. We formed a groundwater sustainability agency with the intent of local control, and Madera County became the GSA for the portion of the Delta Mendota that didn't have other representation in 2017. The Delta Mendota subbasin has 23 other GSAs within it. So we are one of 23. It's a complicated situation. The GSAs are developed into GSP groups. They wrote individual GSPs. Those were submitted, and I'll go through the timeline there. Here's our GSP group. We're in the San Joaquin River Exchange Contractors with many of the cities in the area, including Los Banos and Mendota. Yes, someone like that. Here's the timeline on our submissions. As you know, we had these plans ready in January of 2020. There were 6 GSPs in the Delta Mendota that were submitted then. They were determined to be what's called incomplete. You're familiar with that from the other subbasins. The plans were revised and turned in 6 months later, which is the regulatory timeline for revisions. They were then declared inadequate. And then what happened is, in order to address things that were part of the inadequacy, we've revised again, and I'll go through those. So big picture, what has changed? There's now 1 GSP rather than 6. This is good. 6 involved different consultants, different philosophies towards modeling, different ways of determining sustainable management criteria. So we now have 1. That plan has been through a coordination committee that meets monthly, and the coordination committee recommended adoption of the plan in July. Full plan is on the deltamendota.org website. And now we'll go through the inadequacies as well as the domestic well mitigation plan. So the first corrective action was that we needed to use the same data and methodologies and develop 1 GSP. The second corrective action was we needed to use the same definitions of undesirable results. That included updating all of that for all of those 6 plans, now going into 1 plan, and then revising sustainable management criteria as well. As a result of sustainable management criteria being revised, we have different measurable objectives and minimum thresholds and interim milestones. And the third action is that we needed to set sustainable management criteria in accordance with the GSP regulations in the Water Code. That's similar to what I just discussed, but we revised the discussions, and we often made things explicit and added more text where there wasn't text explaining how the undesirable results, for example, were determined. Like the other GSPs that you will see in the pipeline, this does include a well mitigation policy. There are a couple key elements. All the GSAs, including us, are responsible for making people aware of the program. There's a preliminary review if a dry well is found, just to determine that overdraft created it and not lack of maintenance or something else, or it wasn't just a pump that died. There's the provision for emergency supplies of water in between the well going dry and a well being deepened. There's a water supply that can be delivered. And there's also funding for permanent solutions, including a new well. So you'll see a version of this in Chowchilla as well as Madera coming to you. These are things that the state board has made really clear need to be in domestic well mitigation plans. Here are the opportunities for outreach in the Delta Mendota. There's that coordination committee I mentioned, which met monthly. We also had several staff who participated in a Water Leadership Institute. These are opportunities for local citizens to learn about water and to become advocates for their communities. So we joined that over the summer. There have been a ton of webinars that have walked through this in detail and a public meeting as well. The staff recommendation is to adopt this 2024 Delta Mendota GSP. Our adoption plus the other GSAs will go in a packet of information to the state board, and hopefully the plan itself will be deemed satisfactory, and then we will move back to the jurisdiction of the Department of Water Resources, away from the State Water Resources Control Board, and get into implementation of the plan. Happy to take your questions.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any questions of Stephanie? This is a public hearing. I'm going to open up the hearing. Are there any members of the public that have a comment? Seeing and hearing nobody and nobody's online,
comments
we
online.
will close the public hearing and bring the item back for action.
Chair, sorry to interrupt the motion. I just wanted to note that on the board letter, because this is a public hearing, on the board letter, there's a link to where the plan is available. There's also a physical copy available, but just making sure that we mention where the actual plan that's up for vote can be found.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good. Thank you.
Before I make a motion, it's quite an interesting process of dialing down the desires of the state and the data and process. So it's just gone very well, I think, incrementally over time, considering we were at the top of the list of at-risk basins. And here we are, one of the first in the state with a real plan that actually has allocations. And I think we're still one of the only with allocation.
Well, currently in the Delta Mendota, everybody has a demand management program.
Okay, so
That is
there
what
we
the
go.
state wants.
Yeah, so we're getting there. And I think that Stephanie has done a great job with this, as well as our consultants, David's Engineering. And it's been a long process, but great education along the way. Definitely, for those who don't think this needs to be done, we would look back on this moment if we didn't do this with great angst, because we would end up with nothing beneath our feet and real serious problems. So it's just, we all know, everybody knows really deep down that something had to happen. Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley?
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez? Chairman Poitras?
Yes,
Vote passes 5-0.
thank you.
Thank you.
7B.
7B, Board of Directors, Special Districts, Public Works Department, Administrative Services Division. Hearing to adopt a resolution confirming report on and authorizing the auditor controller to impose liens for delinquency, utility fees and charges, and to send and authorize the collection efforts. Maintenance districts number 1, 5, 6, 7, 8A, 10A, 19A, 19B, 22A, 24, 27, 28, 33, 36, 37, 40A, 42, 43, 46, 58, 60A, 63A, 73A, 85, and 95. Service areas 1, 3, 3B, 14, 16, and 22C.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Andrea Soldati, Deputy Director with Public Works. This is an annual item that we do. And what this does is this allows us to take delinquent balances from water and sewer accounts and put it onto the property tax so that we can fully collect what has been charged within the fiscal year. Current charges, which are for the end of June, stay on the account. Everything else that is outstanding is on this list. I do have a couple of accounts that I would like to remove. Folks came in and paid in full, so I would like to take them off of the list. So with that, I'm here for any questions.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any questions regarding this item?
Yeah, Chair, just one quick question. I think, and I may be getting my items confused, but I think in the past we've had a list of the delinquent charges on our backup, but it wasn't on our backup this time. Am I getting our items mixed up or?
There is a list and it was submitted with the item.
Okay, it's not in our backup.
I didn't see it.
Yep. So does the clerk of the board have an updated enough to pass out to the board members and then available for members of the public?
I have one copy. I can quickly make more.
That's not necessary for me at this point.
Chair. I don't know
Yes.
if you want to circulate the one copy or take a break, move to another item. I mean, it is a hearing, or how you'd like to.
Let's go ahead and take a break or keep the hearing open and move to another item and allow the distribution of the delinquent list.
Sounds good.
Very good. So thank you. Let's move on to item 6B. We're going to.
Yeah, you
Yes.
have to wait.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you.
Six B, Fire Department, discussion and consideration of approval of a receipt of unanticipated revenue number 24-002 in the amount of $601,717 derived from the general fund, dash fund balances to Fire Department, dash equipment furniture more than 5,000 for fiscal year 2024, 2025. 4 votes are required.
Morning.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's good to see you all. Justin McComb, Assistant Chief for CAL FIRE, Madera County Fire Department. This item before you is, I'm going to piece it all back together. If you remember back in February of 2022, one of our fire engines was involved in an accident and basically rolled over and was totaled. So since then, time has gone on. The engine is completed at this point, and I'll piece together kind of where we're getting the figures. So the total cost of the replacement engine was $866,531. We did in 2022 have a down payment for $244,000, and then working back the figures at this point, we're at $601,717 to make the final payment complete. A lot of it is confusing. I was trying to piece it together, but it all kind of encompasses around the Engine 9 replacement program and how we're making it whole. So open for any questions. I also have Joel here if there's any specific questions for him.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any questions from my colleagues?
Yeah, Chair, my only question is around our deductible. And since the accident wasn't our fault, are we still responsible for the deductible, Joel, or can we go after the responsible party there and recoup those funds?
Darren Canlis, County Administrative Office. My understanding is that we did look to see if there was any recourse against the responsible party. My recollection is that party was not insured. So the claim was submitted under the county's property program, which carries a $100,000 deductible on physical damage to vehicle coverage is valued over $250,000.
So the responsible party was uninsured. That was.
That's my understanding.
Very good. Any other questions? Any members of the public have any questions, comments? Anybody online? Nope.
No comments online.
Okay, very good. We'll bring the item back for action.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh,
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers,
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Chairman Poitras.
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
6C.
Public Health Department, discussion and consideration to authorize Madera County Department of Public Health to submit a letter of intent to the California Department of Health Care Services requesting permission to change the status of the California Children's Services Program from dependent county status to independent county status.
Hello, Sarah Boss, Public Health Director. I am here today with a request that the board sign a letter of intent that the California Department of Public Health has instructed us is a first step in being able to explore the potential of becoming an independent county for our California Children's Services Program. Just to briefly give you background about CCS, it was established in 1968. And it serves children up to the age of 21 that have Medi-Cal or a family income of $40,000 or less. Medically eligible children are very sick kids. They suffer from cancer, heart disease, cystic fibrosis, and other diseases that are listed on this screen. And they need care coordination and authorization to be able to get the treatment they need for these critical illnesses. We have an active caseload that has been increasing pretty steadily and even at a higher rate, a faster rate in recent years. And we're up to 1,731 kids that are actively enrolled in CCS currently. That represents about 1% of the Madera County population. CCS does several things. It authorizes services like provider appointments, inpatient hospital stays, home health care, medical equipment, medical transportation, and hospice to these children. And we also operate 2 medical therapy units in the community at Norman Gold Education Center and Course Gold Elementary School that serve 155 kids currently with physical and occupational therapy. The important piece to CCS, which gets a little complicated, and I hope this slide is going to make it easier to follow, is in the code, they established 2 different kinds of counties for CCS, dependent and independent. And currently Madera County is dependent. We were given the option of going to dependent or independent years and years and years ago based on our population size. But because the statute gave the option to counties, there is potentially an opportunity of moving from a dependent county to independent. Another big important part of the history is that standard dependent counties have a couple functions that are listed there, completing applications, the authorization process for services, first level decision appeals, and the medical therapy program. But back in 2012, so 12 years ago, the state found themselves unable to handle the workload of the other aspects that the county didn't handle. Across the state, dependent counties were given the opportunity to take on some of the functions that had been functions of the state, and we were compensated for that. Currently, we're getting $266,600 annually, and that means that we're able to not just process the service requests, but we're able to approve a lot of them. There are some exceptions, and we're also able to do a medical case management and complete the annual medical reviews. What that means is that in Madera County, our staff and our nurses are able to move cases forward quickly, and that these children are able to receive care in a timely way and be able to be connected in a timely way to the services that they need without any, with the control at the local level. basically. The state has decided after 12 years of operating the CMIP program, which stands for Case Management Improvement Project, that they are ending it for dependent counties across the state, Madera being one of those, and we are slated to have that portion of our CCS program removed as of July 1st of 2025. So we have a little less than a year. In anticipation of that and understanding that our nurses are dedicated largely to CMIP activities, we are interested in exploring with the board starting that process with a letter of intent, the process of becoming an independent county. On the right-hand side of the slide that's up, you can see we would then be responsible for final determinations for program eligibility. The exceptions for approvals of the service requests would be reduced to only transplants and out-of-state care. Those would still be handled by the state. We would have to maintain an on-site medical director, who would be Dr. Paul, and we would assist providers with billing Medi-Cal, which we are able to do that. We have the electronic medical record system and the ability to bill Medi-Cal out of our department. There is not a county at this point that has ever gone from dependent to independent. There are a couple different counties that are all exploring this option, including Madera. We would like to do that. But in order to fully flesh out what the process would look like with CDPH, it has to start with a letter of intent. It does not guarantee that we will ultimately move to be an independent county. It just gives us the option of being able to explore with CDPH what that would look like, what funding would come additionally to Madera County to compensate us for the additional work that we would do. And so that's what we would like to do. That's the recommendation of staff, that we pursue this for a couple different reasons. We have trained nurses that are doing great work to cover the functions that are being handled through CMIP currently. And we have an excellent physician in Dr. Paul, who can be the medical director over the program. We ultimately believe that if CMIP were to go away and the state were to take over the services, we would run the same risk as we did 12 years ago when they pushed those services down to the local level. And we would like to maintain those at the local level so that we're able to make sure these children are able to get their services in a timely way. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from my colleagues?
So Sarah, just to be clear, this doesn't commit us. This just starts the process so we can explore.
That's correct.
Okay, very good. Are there any members of the public who have any questions regarding this item?
No comments online.
Okay, very good. I'll bring the item back for action.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley?
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Chairman Poitras?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Very good. Thank you. We will now move back to item 7B and open up this item. We do have the list of delinquent accounts that has been distributed. Do I have any comments from my colleagues regarding this list?
No comments, Chair, but I think we did have some members of the public that were interested in.
Right. We haven't opened up a public hearing yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I do have a question in regards to the list of delinquent accounts. This is quite a list.
Yeah.
And are there some people, and this gets added onto their tax bill, are there some people that haven't paid for years and years and years, and it just kind of keeps adding up on their tax bill?
So this is an annual item. So the only amount that is on here is the past 12 months.
Correct.
We do have what we call frequent flyers who just allow their bill to sit on the account, and then we go through this process and it gets moved to the tax roll. We do have a couple of properties that's just how they pay their bill. We did start putting in late fees as of January to help kind of offset this issue. Again, there are a couple of people that just do not seem to care.
Okay. I was just interested because there's a couple of us who live in the city of Madera that are one of my colleagues here and myself. And we would not have services if we did not pay our bill. They'd get cut off. And so I was just wondering, is that something that's a option, or is it something that, talk to me about it?
Yeah. So per county code, we do have that option available to us where we can send out a 14-day notice, a 7-day notice, and then go lock somebody out. Not all of our districts have the same type of infrastructure that allows us to be able to do that very easily. And so if you can't do it to one, then you can't do it to any. But we do have it available if we were to improve some of the infrastructure to be able to essentially shut somebody's water off. So we do have that written in county code. It's just the implementation of it is much more cumbersome. We also have a severe lack of staff to be able to go out and just lock people off and then go back and turn them back on. Our field staff is dealing with emergency situations pretty much on the daily with the most number of county districts within the state of California. So there are some nuances to deal with that. But again, we do have it written in county code to be able to turn people's water off if they do not pay. We hope to be able to get there someday.
I would just encourage staff to take a look at maybe what other counties are doing or districts, around the state with certain technology. I'm just looking at this and it's kind of like, okay, certain people can't pay, there's financial issues, so on and so forth, but there's others who are taking advantage of the situation, and they're taking advantage of the residents of Madera County because we're having to backfill, this. And so it's to the detriment of some of our citizens. So just wanted to point that out. Any other comments?
So I agree with that. I'm on my own water system, and if I didn't drill my other new well, I wouldn't have had water, and no one would have taken care of it for me. And I'm no different than anybody else in that regard out in the country. These water systems have to have maintenance. They have to be taken care of. The PG&E bill has to be paid. And people who are putting that off are putting the whole system at risk. That's $500,000 right there. And it cannot be paid for by general fund dollars. That's a gift of public funds. These are private systems. You own the system. You should take care of it. And it's just disheartening to see this many people putting that off. When it's put on the tax bill, it's just as though it were property tax at that point. Is that correct?
Yes, it is collected in the same manner and mechanism as a property tax.
Okay, so
It's on the bill.
then a failure to pay the bill over 5 years constitutes a sheriff's sale at that point.
Yep. Yes, and then if it were to sell, we would receive our dollars.
Right. Okay, thank you for the information.
Mr. Varney.
I thought Supervisor Rogers was going to say he was going to lock himself out if he didn't pay it. So, well, Andrea, is the reason why we can't lock these out because most of these districts aren't metered and aren't required to be metered for about 10 more years. Because generally, I'm only familiar with being able to lock out a metered system because that's physically what's attached.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. We have a handful of districts that do have new meters that would allow us to do that. But again, the vast majority do not.
And who's responsible for the cost of the new meter, the water recipient or the county?
So we've actually gotten a number of grants to do the meter installs. And so at this point in time, like what comes to my brain just right off the bat is Indian Lakes. We just replaced all of their meters with radio frequency read meters, and that was state funded. It was all grant funded. So
okay, so we're in the process of getting these to where someday we'll be able to do.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
Okay, good.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
to Andrea's point, as far as infrastructure, like some of these lines are in backyards, accessibility issues, so it'd be very, very difficult to quote unquote lock somebody out due to non-payment. So I think, with the addition of penalties and fees being assessed, obviously you can't make a profit, based on these types of things, but, recover the costs at least through these fees. And if they go on the tax roll, that's a way to do it. But, in the city of Madera, you can go right to the sidewalk, lift open the little thing, shut off their water, and wait for them to pay their bill, have someone go turn it back on. Not anywhere close to that out in a lot of these maintenance districts. Very, very cumbersome and difficult to be able to do that.
But we can't give up. So we need to look at technology, like Jay was talking about, to see if there's something that could be done at some point.
Right, but
That's
like
my point.
the pipeline replacement program in MD10, it's about a $70 million program, and once that gets implemented, we'll have meters and those types of things. But that's still some time out.
Well, it's a goal and something we need to look at for consistency and for cash flow and for responsibility and accountability. Very good. So thank you. And this is a public hearing. I'll open up the public hearing for any comments from the public.
Good morning, board. Thank you very much. We are on that list. So we are part of the issue, but we're not here to complain or anything else. We just want to have possible solution. My name is Drew. My wife, Cindy Ratzloff. We're the owners of the building at 40423 Highway 41 up in Oakhurst. We came before the board on May 19th to bring this situation to your attention. For just a quick review, the laundromat that had been in the building was vacated on January 11th of this year. And since then, there has been no water usage or sewer usage for the 13.6 allocated sewer units. We had asked the utility department soon afterwards if they could put those units on standby since they were not being used. That request was denied. So our next thought was to sell off the unused sewer units to pay for the fees and to stop additional fees from accruing. The new college being built up in Oakhurst had agreed to purchase 6 units from us. And they were told, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but they were told by the county that it would take too long for them to approve the purchase from us. So due to timing, they had to purchase them from the county. So we lost that income. The new tenant for that space has finally hired an architect to put together a CUP, or what's required for their new use of that unit. It's going to be tapped out as a tap house. And so we're in the middle of that. But that process could take 1 to 3 months on their part. And then once submitted to the county, could take an additional 1 to 3 months for approval. So in about 6 months, we would know exactly how many sewer units would be allocated or needed for that spot. We have a total of 20 sewer units for the building. So we're kind of a unique situation because we're like other than hotels and the school, we have more sewer units than anybody else up there. 3.6 of those are already on staff. The laundromat had 13.6 sewer units. Restaurant next door has 2.8. We are asking that the 13.6 sewer units that are not being used be put on standby as of February 1st of this year and approve us to be able to start the attempt to sell 14 sewer units that would still leave 3.8 for any future use in the building, and that's more than adequate. Just for your information, the reason why we owe so much, that's on that list, is that the sewer service fees for one sewer unit up in Oakhurst is $75.76 per month. Times that by 13.6, and we're right at a little over $1,000 per month that's accruing with just for the laundromat, for no water usage, for no sewer usage. We also pay on the property tax $355 a month for the sewer units for the bond for the 13.6. And so that's what we are asking. We're already working with quite a few wonderful people here in the back room, but they thought it would still be good to come out here and let you know what the update is. So,
very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm representing my mother, Guadalupe Macias, in the crowd there. We are on the list as well, number 33 Fairmead, and we've been dealing with a tenant who apparently hasn't paid water for an entire year. Just found out up there in the Public Works Department. Originally, when they signed the agreement, they had agreed to sign up for water and sewage usage. And apparently he's not done anything. We're in the process of evicting him. We didn't know about the water usage because we don't receive the bills in our home over in Santa Cruz County. Over here in Madera County, the only notice we ever received was the one that we're getting a lien placed on the property. I think it was 1,076.50 is the balance. And we're trying to see if there was a way we can arrange a type of payment plan. Because like I said, we were not aware that he was not paying. We should have taken a hint when we figured that he wasn't paying rent. So we want to see if there's a possibility if the board could work some kind of arrangement where you can go ahead and do a payment plan.
On your tax bill, if it's put on your tax bill is due in 2 installments.
Yeah,
You have like a year to.
Yeah,
almost a
absolutely.
year to
Yeah, we
pay.
have back paperwork for the taxes. That's not the issue.
Right.
The
So
issue.
that gives you, the time to pay it out.
Yeah, because upstairs
in
when
2
we asked,
installments.
they told us
One in
that-
December and one in April.
Okay. So
So you could, if you did it, paid it along, you'd have it paid off by.
right. Okay. So something I can discuss with her because passing the property over to her children and she wants to make sure that they are aware of going on.
And you have time beyond that as well. I think there might be some penalties involved if you extend it out based on, not that, no action would be taken on a lien for 5 years.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, we just barely got the notice. We were completely unaware of it, caught us off
Right.
guard. We just want to get it straightened out before.
That's a tough lesson.
Yeah, yeah. Is be aware of who you're renting to.
Yes, exactly.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other members of the public that have a comment? Anybody online?
No comments online.
I'll close the public hearing. And you guys have 55 seconds according to this clock.
Perfect. I'll speak very quickly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt Treber, Development Services Director. All good comments from the board. I do agree. And we are working through a number of different projects and programs to try to get meters out there. The state has moved back some of those requirements in those, but it is still an item that's at the top of our very long list of to get done. So we're going to keep working on that. I would say that under both these instances, we have been briefly discussing with the Ratzlaffs this morning on some different options there. Obviously, that's a little unique. And we have offered payment plans for residents as well that are paying down this debt. So if it is the will of the board to have those two items that were spoken at this morning removed from this list at this time and direct us to work with those residents to get them into a payment plan. And in the Ratzlaff's case, get to a place that makes sense with their end use of that building. I do understand it has not been a laundromat for some time, and so they are having those units. Obviously, there is value to those units as well, so we have to factor that in. But open to that direction if it's the will of the board for us to work with those two individuals. We have their names jotted down and their account numbers. The board's will.
All right, very good. Well, we can express that in our action. So accept the motion for action at this time.
I was moved to approve with the two aforementioned parcel numbers removed from the roll.
I'll second that.
Very good. We have a motion in a second. Roll call vote, please.
Chair, can I hold the vote for one
Certainly.
moment? I apologize. So, Chair, as was mentioned earlier, the list that you have in front of you, there have been payments made. So I think that for purposes of the motion, we make sure that Ms. Saldati reads the ones that have been fulfilled so that they are removed from the list because they're no longer outstanding debts. Is that okay?
That's okay. I would just think that that would be, I mean, I would just think that that would happen regardless.
Automatic, yeah.
You know,
Okay.
automatic.
They are just on this list as
Right.
my only point. But if
Well, and then, I mean, we could maybe amend the motion.
Amend the motion so we remove any that have been paid prior to the public hearing.
that
Okay.
works,
Satisfactory?
Very good.
Yep, still second.
Excellent. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh,
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers,
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Chairman Poitras,
Yes.
vote passes 5-0.
Thank you. We will now move back to discussion items and we'll move to 6D.
Human Resources Department, discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution amending the salary and fringe benefits schedule, salary schedules, and salary tables.
Yes, good morning, Chairman, members of the board, Sabrina Mendez, Department of Human Resources. The item before you is an update to the salary and fringe benefits schedule, the salary schedules and salary tables that incorporates recent changes, some of which your board approved at our last meeting on August 6th. Some of the other changes are to clarify and outline current processes, and adoption of the amended salary schedule resolution will just memorialize these changes. I did want to mention that on item 4 of the board letter, it does outline that there were some changes to the standby section, and I just want to note that there were actually no changes, and I apologize for that oversight. I'm available for any questions.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing and hearing none, are there any members of the public that have any questions regarding this item? Nope. We will bring the item back for action.
Move to approve?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Wamhaugh,
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers,
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley,
Stepped out for a moment.
and Chairman Poitras.
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6E.
Public Works Department, Administrative Services Division, hearing to adopt a resolution adopting the Measure T Annual Expenditures Plan for fiscal year 2024-2025.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board, Jared Carter with Public Works. As mentioned in the item, this is the hearing for adoption of the annual expenditure plan for Measure T for fiscal year 24-25. Included in your backup is information related to the proposed expenditures, and I do have a quick presentation that I'm going to go through real quick just to get through this, and then I'll be available for any questions. Okay. So just as a quick reminder to those that don't know, Measure T is our transportation sales tax. It's a 0.5-cent sales tax that was voted in 2006. It's set to sunset in 2026. Generates about $5 million annually for the county to be used in the various programs within the Measure T plan. And as it notes there, funds are to be programmed and utilized according to the programs or sub-programs listed in the strategic plan implementing guidelines. So here I have just a list of those programs and sub-programs. There are 4 programs that are identified in the plan that I specifically allocate funds for certain types of projects or uses based on those programs. So you can see the 4 programs that are within those. There are sub-programs that are more detailed and specific to street maintenance, ADA compliance, and transit type operations. So for program 1, our commute corridors and farm to market, this is the list of projects that we have identified to be utilized for that program. Includes our payment management system, continuing to operate and update that and maintain that system for use in evaluating our road system. There are a few projects on there for mitigation related to the Oakhurst Midtown Connector and the Road 200 Bridge project. Avenue 25 Bridge replacement, which happy to say is now open. We finished that. So that project is finished. And so this is funding to, again, as the Measure T program is designed for or intended for, to leverage other funding. So in this case, Avenue 25 was a leveraging of federal funding. You also have the CMAQ projects there, which is congestion mitigation air quality. Again, that's federal funding for air quality type projects. There's a few segments listed there for Pool Deck reclamation and rehabilitation. Those are actually segments that were prior approvals on SB1 list of projects that we're now moving forward with after getting through much of what we've dealt with over the last year and a half or so of recovering and dealing with the storm damages. And then there's a few intersection improvement projects there that we've been working on for some time now and been seeking other funding for those. Unfortunately, we haven't been successful in getting funding, so we're looking to move those forward with Measure T. On the street maintenance sub-program, there's the main segment that we're looking at work for that funding is rehabilitation of Avenue 15 from Road 36 to 41. We just recently did some preventative maintenance on the segment from Road 29 out to 36. And the next segment we're going to tackle on that is to get all the way out to 41 and rehab that. And then there'll be some other funding that will go towards our routine ongoing maintenance activities such as patching and like that. On the maintenance district sub program, there is a component of this program that specific to maintenance districts. And so we will continue to use that funding to help match with maintenance districts and service areas who have their own funding that they've accumulated to complete projects. You may recall we just recently had a project that was awarded and is now finished that addressed about 40 miles of roadways and maintenance districts. And again, that was a leveraging of funds, maintenance district funds with Measure T to complete that work. The flexible sub program is impounded. That funding is impounded every year to go towards regional transportation program projects. And then again, some of the other programs, ADA compliance, does not generate a lot of money in that sub program. And so typically we accumulate that money to utilize on other projects that we will need to do enhancements to ADA facilities. That can be anything from pedestrian type projects, or in some cases when we have to do maintenance on a road, we do have mandates that we have to go in and also address ADA facilities when we do certain types of treatments to roadways. The transit enhancement program, again, that's another leveraging of federal transit dollars for various things related to our Madera County Connection Service, particularly for this fiscal year. We're looking at using some of that funding to match and contribute towards some capital projects for our transit operation, including electric bus charging stations, which we're in the process of trying to get on board for the electric vehicle mandates coming up, and also bus wash station and some solar canopies to help with electrical costs. The last program, environmental enhancement, again, is specific to things related to environmental enhancement type projects. So in this case, we're using that funding to help match with federal CMAQ money for another set of shoulder paving projects that we'll be bringing forward hopefully this next year. So in total represents around $30 million in improvements. Again, not all 30 million of that is necessarily from Measure T. A lot of it's leverage money that's coming from other programs. As I mentioned, we're also beginning to start tackling some of the SB1 segments that we had previously brought forward and were approved for completion, but were deferred due to the focus on recovery from storm damage repairs. We're almost at the end of that. I should say we're almost at the end of completing that work. The FEMA reimbursement and that is to be determined, I guess. Not really sure on the time frame on that. And then again, just as I mentioned, continuing to leverage other funding and dollars to expand our ability to do work with more money and just contribute portions of it. So with that, I'm available for any questions.
Very good. Thank you. Great presentation. Are there any questions of Jared?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
So the current Measure T generates approximately $5 billion annually from Madera County, correct? And in the last slide showed it represents approximately $30 million. Is that due to all the leveraged funds from state and fed?
Yes, Supervisor, that's correct. So as an example, the Avenue 25 bridge, that bridge is, I believe it's about a $5 million project. 88% of that is being paid for with federal funds. So we're only having to match about 12% of the cost of that project.
So is it a fair statement to say that that Measure T dollars can be leveraged about 1 to 6?
I would say it depends on the funding program. The match is not always the same in every funding program. So some are 1-to-1, some are 88%. But I think it's definitely fair to say that we can definitely exponentially do more work with the ability to go after these other funds because we have Measure T to help match that.
Have some sort of matching funds available.
Correct.
So
Correct.
without Measure T, what would be our budget in the road for our roads if we had no Measure T whatsoever?
Wow, that's a good question. Well, so
just approximately, I'm not trying to hold you.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say probably on average in a year, we probably have 8 to 10 million total. And that would include covering all of our road maintenance costs, including operations and everything. So when you take salaries, operations, and all that stuff out of it, you're really only looking at about maybe $5 to $6 million that actually can go towards maintenance. And so without Measure T, you got to take that 6 million, 5 million, you got to apply it to either maintenance that you're trying to do, or you take away from that maintenance to go after these other dollars, which is not a bad thing, right? You're growing and getting more money, but it is taking away from your general road maintenance.
So without Measure T, we're looking at $5 to $8 million that we get to spend on our roads. With Measure T, that only generates about $5 million in sales tax, you can leverage to be a total of approximately $30 million. So essentially what you're saying is with this $5 million Measure T fund, we can get up to $30 million in addition to our road funds. So from $5 to $8 million all the way up to close to $40 million is essentially what you're saying.
That's correct.
So is it a fair assessment to say that without Measure T, that our county is in dire straits?
Deficit.
Yeah, I would definitely say that it would be far more complicated to get any road maintenance done, and we would not be doing near what we're doing right now.
Can you provide just an example or two as far as what we would not be able to do if we did not have Measure T?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I'll go back to the Avenue 25 bridge project. I mean, that was a project that had we not applied and been able to get that federal funding, we would have it's a $5 to $6 million project. I mean, that's 1 year's complete.
How about the
cost?
Avenue 26 flap?
Avenue
25 million.
26 flat was a great example. That project was a 90% funded by federal. The Oakhurst Midtown Connector project, that project, we actually got SB1 local partnership funding, which we would not actually even been able to apply for had we not had Measure T and a local transportation sales tax.
Great, thank you.
Just a quick
Yes,
one,
sir.
if I may.
Mhm.
And Jared, I just wanted to, in regards to maintenance districts, we've talked about it before, but I'd really love to see staff using Measure T funds as a tool to help consolidate our road districts, as well as work towards ensuring that their annual assessment, sufficient to manage their roads.
I think we can use the Measure T funds as a tool to get these districts in line where we want them. I think Andrea mentioned earlier that we've got, more maintenance districts in District 5 in Madera County than anywhere else in the state. It's not a title I'm happy to have. So anything we can do to consolidate. Great thing.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just to capitalize on that a little bit, the MD-21, we have over the 14 years I've been the representative for that district, MD-21 has paved approximately 30 miles, I believe, of roads out of the 60. And we did that by matching the small increment of tax dollars brought in from the taxpayer to Measure T. And that match has allowed us to basically pave half the district. A district that was really in dire straits, we took over.
Yeah, Matt Treber again. I just want to piggyback a little bit on what Jared was said. And it is tough to call on this specific item, right? Measure T accounts, 3 to 1 or 4 or 5, right? Because it does vary each year. Obviously, $30 million for 5 million, very good year. And we've in the last 5 or 6, frankly, due to Jared and Andrea and the Public Works team, have stretched these Measure T dollars further than I think we have in the past, right? With the Road 200 bridge and Midtown and all of those different projects that we've done. And it's also a measure that we point when we go after these different grants, right? When we got a $25 million federal grant from State Route 41, right? Having a local sales tax measure matters, and it does move the needles on these things. So it's safe to say that Measure T has far exceeded what that measure brings in all these different matching dollars and programs that without a measure we can't even qualify for. So we're certainly going to be working and pushing and trying to stretch those dollars the furthest we can. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any other comments from my colleagues? If not,
Move to approve.
we have a motion, and then I'm going to open up the hearing. This is a hearing according to the item. Are there any members of the public that have a comment regarding this item? Anybody online?
No comments online.
Very good. And I will bring the item back for action. We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor McCully?
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Chairman Poitras?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you. We do have an opportunity to go back into closed session to complete a few items, but let's go through the remaining agenda before we do that. And first of all, is there any pending legislation? I know
There's no pending, but I just wanted to give the board a quick update on some bills that were held in committee and those that weren't. 4 that the board was interested in throughout the year, 3 that were held, and it moves on. So it's held bills were AB 2557, AB 2882, and SB 1057. The 1057 was one of the ones that the board submitted a letter of opposition on. It had to do with changing the Juvenile Justice Coordinating Council. Our chief was not in support of that. The chief's probation officer of California was not in support of that, and neither was CSAC. I don't think our CRC was either. But the other 2, one had to do with the California Community Corrections performance incentives, and the other had to do with local agencies and contracting for special services, temporary help, and things of that nature. The one that did make it out was AB 2561. That was the one that had to do, it's gone through a number of iterations and it lives on. Basically, it has to do with local public employees and vacant positions and having to, if we hit a particular threshold on vacancy rate in a particular position in a particular represented group, then there's certain actions that are now going to be required by law that we'll have to do if this is signed by the governor. So that's just a quick update on those. And of course, the legislature is done on August 31st, which is not this Saturday, but the following Saturday. Very good. Thank you. Any questions regarding those items? Very good. Let's go ahead and move on to supervisor reports, and I'll start to my right, Supervisor Wamhoff.
Yeah, one addition to an item, a letter of support that this board gave. It was SB 1032. It allowed, or it gave authority to HCD to forgive certain affordable housing loans, and that was held as well. But no surprise, it was co-authored by now Republican State Senator Alvarado Gil. But as far as board report, I have nothing. Thank you.
Very good. Supervisor Gonzalez.
Last week, I, along with Supervisor Wamhoff and Supervisor Poitras, attended the Fresno Madera County Police Chiefs Association Citizens Awards ceremony, and this was highlighting local heroes. Very touching event, and so I was really proud to be there. And also, last week I met with representatives from the North Fork Rancheria of Mono Indians and received an update on the upcoming casino groundbreaking. That's my report.
Very good. Thank you. Supervisor McCauley.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, just want to report that the Yosemite National Park has opened up a comment period on their visitor access plan. I haven't had a chance to review it yet, but as I understand, there's 4 options within that access plan. I think they call it Access, Access Plus, Valley Access, and then No Change. Gateway communities have come together to kind of craft the third option I referenced there, which is kind of limits access into the valley, but still allows access into other parts of the park, which really helps with tourism. As I understand it, some of the hotels have been having a difficult time with bookings this year as a result of the access plan, which obviously affects our economy in the mountain communities and throughout all of our gateway communities. So would encourage the board to review that report as well as provide comments if they deem fit. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Supervisor Rogers.
Yes, attended the Chowchilla GSA for the GSP revisions. Also, we had a meeting of the San Joaquin Valley Water Infrastructure Authority. It's kind of relegated to once a year now. And in that meeting, we asked for a letter to the feds for a change in the management practices, specifically at the Bryant Dam, addressing the single year planning process versus a multi-year planning. When you have cyclical droughts, it's a good idea to spread your planning out over more years than just a single year. So we're not utilizing that water as well as it could be utilized by having single year planning events. The board recognizes that. We're in contact with the Bryant Water Authority to make sure that that doesn't conflict with their feelings on the matter.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. CAO. So I'm sure the board's received a number of community concerns about the air conditioning at the library. Originally, we were advised by the vendor that the part in need, which is a compressor, and that's a chiller system. That's not a standard just refrigerant-based system. It would be here this week. It will not be. We have upped our complaint to someone beyond who was dealing with it. This part's actually coming from Europe somewhere, and so it's going to come to us within 2 weeks is what we've been told now. So we'll wait and see if that happens. Fortunately, it's a little cooler right now. Unfortunately, it's still pretty warm in the library, and it's causing them to restrict their hours. But replacement of that system, just thumbnailing it, would be someplace in the $250,000 to $500,000 range. So the part's on its way. I don't believe it's time to replace it yet. And as the part, I think it's around compressor. 50,000. It's 50,000. It was 49,000 and something, and that was pre-tax. So
Gotcha. Very good. Thank you.
that's all I have.
Can I have seconds on? I forgot one thing that was rather important. Very happy to state that three of us last night got to meet with the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and that was a really formative meeting. and our Congressman John Duarte as well. And it was just really an honor and a privilege to listen to what they had to say, and really appreciated the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, council.
Yep, Chair, just to piggyback off comment from one of our supervisors, on Wednesday or Thursday of this week, I'll be providing a confidential attorney-client privilege update to you and the chair regarding Yosemite National Park's reservation system, so that if you take the opportunity to comment, there's just a little bit of legal background that I will provide to you. It's being worked on and will be finalized this week. Thank you.
And clerk of the board.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay, before we go into closed session, I'd just like to note that I was looking at our meeting schedule, and we have 3 meetings scheduled for September, 3 for October, but the next one, the first one in November, will be election day, and typically this venue is utilized for voting. So we're going to have to figure out another location and venue for our meeting. So just
You
wanted
do
to
an
bring
on the
that up.
road meeting or something.
Yeah,
We have a
we,
nice new office up in Oakers. It's all set up, ready to go.
we always like to also be aware of the costs for on the
Right.
road too,
That's-
especially this year.
I think we can reduce those costs because we've got this nice new venue up in Oakers.
What a guy. Very good.
Do anything.
Well, I just wanted to bring that up to to our CAO and staff so that we can start that planning process.
And Ms.
That meeting was canceled.
That meeting
Yeah,
was
the
canceled.
5th was canceled on the original calendar.
It was
And-
canceled, although I just want to bring this up. That means it's almost a month from October 15th to the 12th of November. So
Well,
FYI.
not to disappoint, but you will have an additional meeting in September. We're going to bring the budget back to you on Monday, the 16th.
Okay.
That week. So, but we're happy to schedule an additional meeting
Just
in November if we need to.
something to think about in case there's items that we need to take a look at and consider,
Okay.
you know, the work of the people. Very good. Well, let's go into closed session. We are back from closed session. Council, are there any reportable action?
No reportable action, Chair.
Very good. Thank you very much. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody, for your time.